Yeah, how can you? He's your brother. Welcome back, Salt Lake listeners. Thank you so much. MainJoe, thank you again for setting up the studio and producing another episode of the Two Joes podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having MoJoe Studio. It's a great place to come and cast from, man.
Yeah, it's a fun place, isn't it? Yeah.
We got a couple of good casts with our new friend Val. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Very interesting, fascinating dude. Came from Bolivia, lost his hand in America, persevered, pushed on, and he's crushing it. He's just keeps on moving, man.
He's doing great, living a great life. He's taking care of business.
Feels successful. He's taking care of his family.
Yeah.
Great smile. He seems like a genuine, happy dude. I really enjoyed meeting him.
Very much so. He spends his time working at and practicing worthwhile things, in pretty much any life. He loses his hand in a car accident and then learns how to golf. After that, he wasn't a golfer before that. He learned how to golf after he lost his hand.
Yeah,
and
I love his attitude of continuous improvement, which is one of the attitudes I try to have in my life as well. You're always trying to improve, always trying to
indeed, yeah,
push yourself a little bit.
Inspirational guy,
yeah.
And I could just sense happiness out of him. He just seemed like a happy dude.
Yeah.
Happy to not just be alive, but also, I think a great source of his happiness is being in this country. I think he really loves America for what it
opportunity. He brought that up more than once.
More than once he did. Yeah.
He loves just, even if you don't take advantage of every opportunity offered you, just having them there gives you a feeling of happiness, potential. What if, it's good to have. Yeah. I mean, it must be crushing to live in some countries where there isn't that opportunity there, and your life looks like has no potential to go anywhere.
Yeah, and that's interesting, MainJoe. We asked him about his childhood in Bolivia, and he spoke warmly.
He did.
What's your impression? What was he trying to say there?
Well, okay, give me my take on it. Is when I grew up in my small town, I wasn't looking for opportunity. I wasn't looking at what could I be when I grow up or anything like that. No, I was just a kid having fun. My parents weren't rich, but we had everything we needed. We had food on the table every night. We had sanitation, which I learned is really important. And, I had things to do. I had balls to bounce and play with, and that's all you really need when you're a kid. That's enough. And he had that. But once you get out of high school, now you're looking at, okay, what are my opportunities? And I had that. I had opportunities, but... Yeah. At some point, he got married after high school. He had a wife and 2 kids over there. And I guess at some point, he's looking at his kids saying, what opportunities are they going to have? Because he mentioned you're always looking for your kids to do better than you did, to live to their full potential. And I guess he looked at that situation in Bolivia and he was like, can we do better somewhere else?
I remember we asked him specifically, why was America so attractive? Was there something the Bolivian government was imposing on you and your fellow citizens that we just went, oh, that is BS. I can't open a new shop. I can't do a new business. I can't do this because
he did mention that 2 weeks of political killings or political upheaval.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
We think we have it bad. What would happen if Hillary and Trump started shooting at each other? I mean, oh my God.
Great question. I still want to go back and study that, the 2 weeks of political...
That might be interesting to look up.
Yeah.
The political turmoil back in the 90s in Bolivia. What was that about?
We see political upheaval all over the globe in many, many countries,
but
I never hear of it in Bolivia. Bolivia doesn't make the news very much, does it?
Not much. It's a smaller country. It's landlocked, which I found out.
Which we learned tonight. Yeah.
Thank you for humbling me a little bit, Val. I mean, sometimes I think I'm smarter than I am. I mean, so I need to study some more maps and not think I know everything.
I was surprised by that, too. I thought Bolivia was coastal. I had no clue.
We found out it's mountainous.
Yeah.
It's landlocked. It's a consumer nation for the most part. They do produce a mean quinoa.
And we tried to spell that tonight, and I'm sure I screwed that up.
I don't even want to try it. All I know is it starts with a Q.
Yeah, interesting guest.
Great guest.
Yeah.
Looking forward to having him back. I want to know more about his education here, what he does for a living here. I don't know if I ever really got that out of him. So a lot more to talk about, and a great story.
Something I'd love to hear, too, is, I wonder with his, what did he call the instrument, the musical instrument he plays? Not the flute. Not
I don't want to say pan flute.
No, panpipes. Panpipes. And I wonder, he says it's been over 20 years since he played. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I would love to have him over for a jam and see if he might have been a prodigy on this stuff. And if
golf is any indication.
Yeah, dude, yeah, exactly. I'd like to see if he'd be like a harp Joe, where he could just join any song.
He didn't give me the impression that he thought he could do that, but
modesty.
I'm thinking it might be a little bit of modesty, and I think if he came to one of our jams, I would not be too surprised if he was able to just jam along with us.
Or at least keep up and keep a tempo going and stay in every song.
I think he probably could just be fine. Yeah, I think he might just fit right in.
And when he spoke about his wife's culinary talents, that intrigued me.
Me too, because Mexican food is one of my favorite foods on the planet.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out right now to one of my favorite Mexican restaurants here in La Costa, in Salt Lake. The name of the restaurant's La Costa. I'm taking a big chance here. I'm taking a big risk because once you tell people about your favorite place, a lot of times it can get inundated with new customers, and you got to wait for a table. But I'm going to take my chances. I love La Costa. They've got the best salsa in the valley, in my opinion. And that's one of the benchmarks that when I go into a Mexican place, that's what I'm going to judge them on. First and foremost is how good is their salsa and their chips. And La Costa nails both of those.
I like warm, thin chips and great salsa.
La Costa.
I got to tell you, MainJoe, Rosta's wife, makes the best salsa I've ever had in my life from scratch. Oh, yeah. She grinds it all up together, and it is the best. So
sounds good. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
You weren't wrong about Danjo and her sandwiches, so you might be right about this salsa, too.
I finally remember.
You obviously have good taste because you just ordered one of the best pie pizzas I've ever had.
Those are damn good, aren't they?
Shout out to the pie, apparently.
Yeah. Pie Pizzeria, La Frontera Restaurant. What was the one that Val mentioned up in Logan? The Mexican place?
What was that?
Tierra Alberto
Viejo, something like that. The Green Bowl, something like that. Maybe I don't know. We'll find it. We'll find it.
Oh, and I remembered the nickname we gave Danjo that night. Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Remember we've had Peaches.
I remember now.
We've had
Peaches.
Who was our
Jelly
Bean and Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Dude, that's a nice lineup. It sounds like a couple episodes of the Monkees could be built around that.
Speaking of the Monkees, again, I want to give a shout out to our jam group who jammed their asses off last night. Yep. How much fun was that?
Big
MoJoe,
energy.
Myself and my wife, I'm going to call her JoJo. Mm-hmm. We've both commented on how your singing was on point last night. It was so fun to have you belting those tunes out. So awesome. A lot of fun.
I have also been thinking about our singing has improved. Everybody, the way we the younger Czech Joe, his singing is great. Heart of Gold, he nails, and Wish You Were Here does a great job. And I think we've started focusing on the singing, on the vocals, because we've got the instrumentals down pretty good. And listeners, I hope you'll form a jam group or come and join ours. It's so much fun. It is
so much fun. And if you don't know people, I think a website where I actually hooked up with a different jam group because I was having so much fun with our jam group, but they weren't meeting on every week, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. I want to jam every week because it's so much fun. So I went to this website called Meetup, and I found a jam group on Meetup I jammed with for a few weeks before the Meetup group just dissolved because the person that started it left or something, or decided they didn't want to do it anymore, or whatever happened, I don't know. But anyway, so that might be a way for you to get out and meet some other jammers and have some fun.
Yeah,
Find some people to jam with.
Even if you just bang on a tambourine for 2 hours,
Keep it simple at
you
first.
can find a way to insert that into the song where it sounds great.
Yeah.
And then figure out a way where it doesn't sound as good, and then just stay silent for a few minutes. Just find your way into the music. You will find a way. It's become very clear to me over the past 10 years.
I tell you, back when I first started jamming, we were jamming with cardboard tubes and buckets, and we would grab whatever was convenient to just jam with, and it was amazing. Another thing, I think there's this group called Stomp. They're probably on YouTube. I haven't checked them out in a long time.
A group or an event? It's called Stomp.
I think it was actual group, but basically they would play anything and everything, and the stuff they would create would blow your mind. And that was kind of the inspiration for us to start jamming, I believe, back in the day. I can't remember for sure, but
if I may, the Stomp, I've seen it firsthand in this room. Conga Joe.
Yeah.
One time I was having a little party here. Excuse me, listeners, I have a hiccup. And there were maybe 10, 12 people in this room, and in front of Conga Joe was a wine glass with a stem, and then a cocktail glass next to that was his, and then a wooden coaster, as you can see right there, and had 2 drumsticks from the kit in the garage, and he proceeded to do 2.5, 3 minutes of supporting percussion using those 3 items in his drum set: a wine glass, a cocktail glass, and a wooden coaster.
Nice.
And it was fantastic. It was a good friend of ours was accompanying on guitar, and there were a couple of us singing at the same time, and it's just music comes from everywhere. You don't need a guitar. You don't have to have a banjo. You don't have to have this or that. Find your own. What can you make music with?
2 sticks.
2 sticks and a cardboard box.
A dowel. Whatever you got laying around. A coffee cup. A fork or a spoon.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Well, what another great segment.
Another great little
perfect wrap
podcast evening.
Yeah. And I'm working on our next guests already. We'll see who comes next, listeners. I don't know either. At this point, I have no idea who our next guest will be.
Oh, man.
I'm going to keep finding them, MainJoe.
So cool. I appreciate it so much. Man, just adds so much. I mean, I think we could probably carry the podcast, the 2 of us, but to have a guest and to hear these unusual, unique stories, so much flavor, so much genuine. It just makes it so much more interesting.
Well, it does, and I think something you and I have worked towards trying to master is the art of asking a good question.
Yeah.
An insightful question, and then don't drag your question on too long. Ask the question, and then shut up and listen to the response. And it's one of the arts of podcasting
is listening, and I do better at that some nights than others. Sometimes I'm editing one of these podcasts, and I'm like, shut the fuck up already.
Dude, man, I've listened to several where I'm, man, why didn't MainJoe cut that part out right there? I went on and on.
We're gonna get better, dude. We're gonna get better. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for tuning in, listening to this little wrap-up section. I can't even talk. Wrap up session, podcast session on this session evening. Okay, this is all going to be cut.
Cue music, and thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Thank you again to our guest Valerio this evening, and of course, always thanks to MainJoe for setting up our studio this evening.
Till next time.